The ghost in my Airbnb asked me to stay forever. Please, don't leave me. The voice came from right behind me, soft and trembling, like someone whispering through the walls. My heart stopped. I turned slowly toward the corner of the bedroom, where the old rocking chair was moving by itself, creaking back and forth, though no one was sitting there. The air turned cold, my breath fogging in front of me. Then I saw her. A woman, pale as snow, standing in the dim light of the Airbnb's lamp. Her eyes were hollow, dark circles surrounding them, her dress torn like she had been buried in it. She smiled at me, a sad, broken smile, and said again, "Please, stay forever." I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The door behind me slammed shut on its own. The light flickered, and for a split second her face twisted, her mouth stretching too wide, her eyes turning black. I reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't move. The rocking chair stopped. The woman's head tilted. Then, everything went black. It all started 3 days before that moment. I had just arrived in Portland for a short break after my college exams. The Airbnb I booked was an old 2-story house on the edge of town. The pictures looked cozy: vintage furniture, a big fireplace, and a balcony overlooking the woods. The host, a woman named Lydia, had great reviews. Everyone said she was the sweetest old lady, and that the house had real character. When I got there, the first thing I noticed was how quiet the street was. Not a single car passed by. Even the birds didn't make a sound. The house looked older than it did online, its white paint faded and the porch steps creaking under my shoes. Lydia greeted me at the door. She looked to be in her 60s, her gray hair tied neatly in a bun, her smile warm but off. Her eyes didn't quite match her expression, like she was smiling because she had to. "You must be Ethan," she said in a cheerful voice. "Welcome home." "Thanks," I said, rolling my suitcase in. "You've got a beautiful place." Her eyes twitched slightly. "It's been in the family for generations," she replied. "I'm happy to have someone here again. It gets lonely." I laughed nervously. "Well, I'll try to keep it lively." As she showed me around, I couldn't shake the weird feeling that someone else was in the house. Every time we walked past the hallway mirror, I swore I saw movement behind us. When I looked back, there was nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly. Around 2:45 a.m., I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, dragging footsteps. But Lydia had said she lived next door, not in the house. I told myself it was the house settling. Still, I couldn't help but stare at the ceiling until sunrise. The next day, Lydia stopped by with a plate of cookies. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. "Sort of," I said. "Thought I heard someone walking around last night." Her smile faded. "You must have been dreaming. The house makes sounds sometimes." Then she leaned in closer and whispered, "It remembers its guests." I froze. What does that mean? She stood up straight again and giggled like she hadn't said anything strange. "Enjoy your stay, dear." After she left, I noticed something odd in the living room. The rocking chair in the corner. Something about it looked wrong. It was slightly turned toward the hallway, as if watching me. I was sure it had faced the fireplace before. That night the footsteps came again. This time they didn't stop at the ceiling. They came down the stairs, slow, heavy. I hid under my blanket, my heart thumping in my chest. Then the door creaked open. I peeked through a tiny gap in the blanket. A shape stood there, tall, still, silent. I could make out a woman's outline, her head tilted like she was studying me. The room grew freezing cold. My phone lit up on the nightstand, and in the glow I saw her reflection in the mirror. She was standing right behind me. "Please." The whisper came again, soft and desperate. "Stay forever." The light went out, and something ice-cold grabbed my wrist. When I opened my eyes, the sun was shining through the curtains. My wrist was sore, and there were faint red marks around it, like someone had gripped it tightly. For a moment, I thought maybe it was a dream. Maybe I'd imagined everything. The whisper, the cold hand, the rocking chair moving on its own. I got up slowly, checked the mirror, and froze. The mirror was fogged up, like someone had breathed on it during the night. But what made my stomach twist was the writing. 3 words, drawn with a shaky finger. Stay with me. I backed away until I hit the wall. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like the whole house could hear it. I grabbed my phone and tried calling Lydia, but it went straight to voicemail. No message, no ring, just silence. Trying to calm myself, I decided to go outside for some air. The backyard was quiet, but something was strange about the ground. It was uneven, like parts of it had been dug up and filled again. Near the far end of the yard stood a weathered gravestone, half buried in the dirt. There was no name, only the faint words, "Forever home." I shivered and hurried back inside. When I returned, the cookies Lydia had brought were gone from the counter. The plate sat empty, but the crumbs looked fresh, like someone had just eaten them. I tried to laugh it off, convincing myself maybe I'd forgotten I ate them last night. But deep down, I knew I didn't. That night, I decided to stay awake. I set up my phone on the dresser, recording the room. If anything weird happened again, I wanted proof. Midnight passed. 1 o'clock. 2. Nothing. Then, at exactly 3:07 a.m., the air went cold again. My breath came out in fog. The rocking chair began to move by itself. Creak, 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 the chair turned. Slowly toward me. I held my breath, frozen in bed. Then from behind me, I heard the floorboards groan. Someone was standing right beside me. I forced myself to look. The woman from before, the ghost, was there again. Her dress fluttered though there was no wind. Her face looked softer now, almost sad. "You remind me of him," she said, her voice echoing faintly. "He promised he'd never leave." I swallowed hard. Who are you?" She smiled, tilting her head like she was remembering something far away. "My name was Eleanor. This was my home. My husband built it for me. We were supposed to live here forever." Her voice trembled, and for a moment I felt a pang of pity. "What happened to him?" I asked quietly. Her eyes darkened. "He left." The light flickered, and her expression changed from sorrow to fury. Her mouth twisted open unnaturally wide, her voice turning sharp. "But you won't." The rocking chair stopped. My phone on the dresser began to vibrate violently before flying off and hitting the floor. The lamp shattered. I jumped up, but the door slammed shut before I could reach it. Eleanor floated closer, her hair rising like she was underwater. "Stay with me," she whispered, her hand reaching for my face. I pressed myself against the wall. "Please, I don't belong here." She looked at me, her ghostly eyes filling with tears. "Everyone says that, but they always stay in the end." Suddenly, there was a loud bang from the hallway, like something crashing down. Eleanor turned her head sharply, distracted. I didn't wait. I grabbed the doorknob, pulled as hard as I could, and stumbled out into the dark hallway. The lights flickered as I ran toward the stairs. My footsteps echoed, and I heard another set behind me, slower, dragging, following. I reached the front door and tried to open it. Locked. I pulled harder, panic rising in my throat. Then I heard her whisper again, right behind my ear. "Why are you running, Ethan?" I turned, and she was inches from my face, pale, smiling, her cold hand resting gently on my chest. Before I could move, the floor beneath us creaked and gave way slightly, like something was hollow beneath it. I looked down and saw wood planks that had been nailed over a dark opening. Eleanor smiled wider. "You want to leave?" she whispered. "Then you should see where they all went." The boards started to splinter, the floor cracked beneath my feet. I lost my balance and fell, straight into the darkness below the house. I hit the ground hard, the air rushing out of my lungs. For a few seconds, everything was dark, the kind of dark that makes you forget what light even feels like. My phone's flashlight flickered weakly beside me, its screen cracked but still glowing. I reached for it, turned it toward the space around me, and froze. I was in a narrow basement, the walls made of old stone. The air was heavy, damp, and smelled like earth and something worse, rot. In front of me were several wooden boxes stacked unevenly. At first I thought they were storage chests, but when I got closer, I saw the truth. They were coffins, old, cracked, and covered in dust. Some were half open. Inside them, bones. Real, human bones. I stepped back, my heart slamming against my ribs. My hand brushed something soft, fabric. I turned around and found a faded photograph hanging crookedly on the wall. It showed a young couple standing in front of the same house I was in. The woman was unmistakable, Eleanor. She looked alive and happy, her hand resting on her husband's shoulder. But someone had scratched his face out of the photo. A cold whisper came from the shadows behind me. He tried to leave too. I turned. Eleanor stood just beyond the reach of the flashlight, her face flickering between beauty and horror. Her once white dress now looked soaked in black water, her eyes hollow and endless. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted, backing away. "You're dead. You can't Eat me here." Her voice cracked with pain. "I gave my life to this house. He promised we'd stay forever, and when he broke that promise, I made sure he did." She floated closer, her feet not touching the ground. The coffins behind her creaked open, and inside them were the remains of people who didn't look that old. I could see bits of modern clothing, even a cell phone sticking out of one. "They all said they'd leave," she whispered, "but they didn't." I stumbled backward, tripping over a loose board. My phone slipped from my hand, the light spinning wildly across the walls. That's when I saw it. A small, rusted door on the far end of the basement. I crawled toward it, fingers shaking. Behind me, Eleanor screamed, a sound that didn't sound human anymore, more like 1,000 voices crying at once. "Don't leave me, Ethan," she shrieked. "You promised." I hadn't promised anything, but she didn't seem to know that anymore. I grabbed the doorknob and yanked it open. A gust of cold air hit me, carrying the faint scent of pine and rain. I climbed up the narrow tunnel, scraping my arms against the rough walls, Eleanor's wails echoing behind me. When I pushed through the final hatch, I stumbled into the woods behind the house. The moonlight hit my face, and for the first time in days, I could breathe freely. I ran until my legs gave out, until I could no longer see the house. By morning, I made it to a gas station off the main road. The clerk stared at me like I was crazy when I told him what happened. He just shook his head and said quietly, "That old place, burned down 10 years ago. No one's lived there since." My stomach dropped. No, that can't be right. I was there. I met the host, Lydia. He frowned. Lydia White. She was the owner's wife, died in that fire. They say her spirit still welcomes guests. I felt the blood drain from my face. Lydia? I spared. I thought her name was Eleanor. The clerk looked at me, puzzled. Eleanor was the one before her. I froze. My head spun. The ground beneath me felt unsteady. I looked down at my wrist. The faint red marks were still there, darker now, like fingerprints burned into my skin. That night, I checked my phone's recording from the Airbnb. Most of the video was static, but near the end, the image cleared for just 1 second. The rocking chair, moving slowly, and a woman's voice whispering through the speakers, the same voice that haunted me for 3 nights. "Welcome home, Ethan." The screen went black, and then right before it turned off completely, I heard the faint creak of a rocking chair behind me. Creak, creak, creak. I turned around. The chair was moving,